What would you think if I told you a story about a very wealthy countess? When she died, she gave everything to her dog, Gunther. You're talking about a dog that's worth $400 million. Oh, it's a true story. I work for the dog.
Gunther owns a yacht, several properties in Italy.
27 employees.
I wanted to be a tick on that dog's ass for the rest of my life. The man pulling the strings of this puppy show.
He's a visionary.
This dog was my best friend.
Maurizio Mian.
E oggi, infatti, la domanda che ti ho fatto prima di intervistarti è se aveva pagato te per fare questo documentario.
È il cane che deve stare meglio possibile.
So we got Madonna's mansion.
Abbiamo cominciato a mettere su un gruppo musicale.
He wanted young people who were fantastic looking to live with a rich dog. Are you crazy?
As long as we resided in the mansion with Gunther, we were going to just enjoy the millions. It got a little bit twisted.
Their lifestyle had its commandments.
We were being watched 24/7.
They encouraged them to have sex.
We were doing research.
Do you feel like that could almost be cult-like?
Not at all. Okay, so, wow, that is hilarious.
Where did the money come from?
Is the Countess real?
Cut, please.
I just knew it was fake. If I answered the two, I'm gonna...
Things went out of control.
We were like lab rats.
It was like a brainwash.
Are you sure you want to put this?
It was kind of scary territory.
We are creating a new breed of man.
We are going into a difficult subject. I don't think it's the moment to tell this now. I don't think. The dogs were cloned.
That was the trailer for the new hit Netflix docuseries Gunther's Millions, and this is Factual America. I'm your host, Matthew Sherwood. Each week I watch a hit documentary and then talk with the filmmakers and their subjects. Multi-millionaire Gunther VI lives in the lap of luxury. He travels on private planes, eats gold-flaked steaks for dinner, and surrounds himself with a glamorous entourage of spokesmodels and entertainers. He is also a German shepherd. As the legend goes, a rich German countess bequeathed her fortune to her beloved dog and placed him in the care of her deceased son's close friend, Italian pharmaceutical heir Maurizio Mian. Over the past 30 years, Mian has built an empire on behalf of his canine boss, including buying Madonna's mansion in Miami while engaging in controversial social experiments and one of the biggest tax frauds in history. And that's just the beginning of the story. Join us as we talk with Aurelien Leturgie and Emilie Dumay about their documentary series investigating the complicated truth behind the world's wealthiest pet. Stay tuned. Aurelien and Emilie, welcome to Factual America. How are things with you?
Very good. Thank you for having us.
Yes, just to remind our listeners and viewers, we will be talking about Gunther's Millions, the new Netflix docuseries, releasing on February 1st. I believe that's when this recording is releasing, so it will be out by the time you all listen to this. But welcome again to Factual America. Congratulations. I think you have a real hit on your hands, so these must be very exciting times for you and your production company. And how does that feel, Emilie?
It feels great. I mean, we've been working on this project for about 2 years now, so it's really exciting to have it come out soon and being able to share it with the world.
Okay. I think, well, I probably don't need to say spoiler alert, but there's I would suggest, and I highly recommend everyone, just if you have a chance, watch the series and then maybe come back to us if you don't want to have anything spoiled. But at the same time, I think in terms of the trailer and a lot of the publicity coming up to this, there's a lot that has been revealed. But Aurelien, maybe you can start us off with Just let us maybe tell our listeners, what is Gunther's Millions all about? Maybe give us a brief synopsis.
Sure. Well, Gunther's Millions is a shocking and very buzzy story that really feels like larger than life and sounds like a fairy tale. There's Gunther, the richest dog in the world, and it's about his wealth. It's about his lavish lifestyle and mansions and his glamorous entourage. But there's also a lot more than what meets the eye. And that's why we decided to go deeper and tell the story.
Okay. And so it's the world's richest pet, supposedly. It's a bit of as we find out, or it's a bit of an urban legend surrounding this. There's a lot going on here, but Emilie, let's go back to the main subject, or the title at least, Gunther. He is a German Shepherd, describe his lifestyle for us, maybe, if you don't mind. And is that really Gunther in all the opening credits and we see throughout the film?
I mean, yes, Gunther lives, Gunther the Sixth lives in Italy. He lives in a beautiful villa, in a beautiful mansion. He has, a great lifestyle. And just throughout the years, the story of Gunther is taking, place in Italy, in the Bahamas, in Miami. The riches of the dog have gone through, real estate investments, created a pop group. They've owned Madonna's house in Miami. There's just a lot to the story that was that's been, throughout the years. And this is the richest dog in the world. So his lifestyle is pretty glamorous.
Yeah. Yes. Eats steak and likes caviar, I think, and they buy yachts for him and things like that.
Yeah, he actually owns a yacht in Italy as well.
Yes. A dog actually owns a yacht. At least that's what we're told. But Aurelien, from my understanding, going into this, you knew there was more to the story, didn't you?
For sure. I mean, to be honest with you, we like everyone else, when you hear about a dog that has all of this wealth and a trust in the Bahamas, you must come across a few thoughts as far as who's behind this, who's pulling the strings. Also, in addition to that, there's been a lot of media reporting the story throughout the last 3 decades. And, we came into the story with already suspicions about what is real, what is reality versus fiction. So we came into this knowing that there was definitely a lot more to discover and uncover. And that's what that's why we want to take the viewers within the same journey that we did of getting the truth out.
Yes. And I have to say, it is one of the craziest stories I've ever I've had the experience of. I can't even. That doesn't even do it justice. I must say. I mean, this was, as you already said, it's. I think you've described it as crazy, bigger than life, and but you hear things about films that say that, and then you actually sit down, and maybe they don't necessarily live up to the hype or the buzz. But this, my jaw dropped more than a few times, certainly while watching this. But I mean, Emilie, did anything prepare you for what you were to uncover? Because like Aurelien was already saying, there had been some stuff written over the years, some interviews. You've obviously done your background research, but did you have any idea some of the stuff that you were going to uncover when you started this project?
Definitely not. Not all of it, at least. We had definitely done our research. We had seen what was out there, and most of the things that were out there were about similar storyline. They were about the Madonna purchase, about the dog living the rich life. But when we started digging into it, there's just a lot more to the story, and every twist and turn that it took us to. So it was a lot more, and we didn't realize at first that we were gonna take that journey. We were gonna be taken for a ride, and we had to, uncover a lot of the truth that that we were faced with. So So definitely a larger journey than we expected, but every twist and turn was really fun to add to that story.
So, I mean, what did you, if I may follow up, I mean, what did you envision the film looking like? Because it's obviously not, I'm sure the finished product is nothing like maybe what you were imagining when you were initially pitching this. What did you think you were going to have? Like maybe a feature on this dog's ridiculous lifestyle? Is that the extent of it? What were you thinking?
So I think that we were expecting really not maybe everything that we uncovered, but we knew that we were getting into something very interesting, mostly because there was a big aha moment for us at the very, very early stages. That was kind of like a turning point in our vision and our approach. And that was actually pretty bonkers, even crazier than you can think. We were exchanging emails with Maurizio. We were trying to get the access, trying to ask questions. And so I think there was a document that was sent to us that was not meant to be. And that document, Maurizio is very well spoken and writes and reads very well, but sometimes gets a little excited with emojis and documents and attachments. And I think he sent us a document that was literally were the Gunther's lifestyle, the 13 commandments.
Right.
And we were like, well, all right, well, there's a trust in the Bahamas. There's a first beneficiary, which is a German Shepherd. That's crazy. But now 13 commandments, a lifestyle, that's even crazier. We need to jump on a plane and meet that gentleman and get the full story. So that was for us a moment where we realized it was a moment of realization where this is bigger than what we even expected, and we already had very high expectations. So it was like, we need to get this. We need to go to dig deeper.
And so exactly. So what ensues is Emilie was also saying is a filmmaker's journey. Literally, you're crisscrossing across the globe, Tuscany, Miami, the Bahamas. And that so that was a decision on your part, that you were definitely, as you tell the story, we were going to live the journey that you went through in terms of uncovering this story. Is that right?
I mean, it kind of unfolded that way. At first, we were just, really digging into the story and trying to really feature the characters and getting to know the story. But I think at some point we realized we were also part of the journey because of all the revelations that we were coming across, and you can hear our skepticism through our questions, and you can hear kind of and we realized this is the actual way of telling the story. It's the kind of what was presented to us at first and what we've uncovered, through our interviews, through meeting those characters. And these characters were all so amazing and so each larger than life, and better than the previous one. So it was just it wasn't necessarily the way we were going to tell the story at first, but we realized that it was a big part. We were a big part of this because of the journey we were taking with these revelations and these characters.
But at the center of this story, I mean, obviously there's Gunther the dog, but as you've already made mention of Maurizio Mian, who's some I find it kind of funny to describe him as Gunther's handler, but he's or is he the mastermind? Or I mean, who is he? Maybe you could tell us a little bit more, Aurelien, about who is this man, Maurizio Mian? Yeah.
Well, first of all, I mean, Maurizio is a very eccentric Italian businessman and entrepreneur. We had an instant connection with him when we met. He's extremely likable. He's very mysterious. You definitely, a great people's person. Like he's bizarre, but he's brilliant, but he's bizarrely brilliant. It's really a mix of everything. And it truly is at the center of this story. I mean, we knew that, we would have never been able to make this documentary series without, not only his trust, but his involvement. So what also the story of Maurizio really led us to so many different paths, and we constantly uncovered something new with him. And that said, I think it took us to a deeper journey also of understanding his psyche, understanding deeper subjects, and why the Countess, why the son of the Countess, which are like more deeper themes, and that would go well beyond just the rich dog.
Yeah, I mean, so and you interview. I mean, I've seen somewhere where you weren't expecting to get more than one interview with him, and he's I can tell you had multiple interviews with him. Yet one thing, I mean, it's not just him. And we can talk a little bit more about this, about all the incredible characters and subjects in this film. But, you obviously would rock up, do an interview. I don't know, a few months would pass. You'd come back and do another interview. And they're saying something almost completely, totally different than what he was saying in a previous interview. So, did you ever, I mean, you say you had this rapport with him, but did you ever feel like you really, or even now, really know who he really is? Because I think the thing about this that strikes me, if I'm not giving away too much, is that I kind of left watching this thing, because I have had the chance to see all 4 episodes, not really knowing for sure what the truth is in a lot of these situations. So how do you feel? Do you feel like you know what is and isn't the truth now that you've had all these couple years filming with him and all these interviews with him?
I mean, it's a great question. It's throughout the years we've done our best to try to really crack this story and go deep into our research and investigation of all these elements of the story. Obviously, there are a lot of things that just remain in Maurizio's hands because he's the one who holds the truth about certain of the storylines. But we feel like, like you said, at first, we went in and we met Maurizio. We asked him, we had our first interview with him, and there's a lot of things that we were told that we were able to come back and really confront him on later in the series and later in our investigation. And we feel like we got to a very true Maurizio by the end. I mean, there's always going to be Maurizio's creativity and eccentricity that will, he might come up with new things, and there will always be a Gunther story, but there's definitely a lot of things that he had to let go of and really come clean with, especially with the story of the Countess, the story of the son of the Countess, which he was very attached to. So, and then all the explanation of the money, and there's just a lot that we were able to really have him explain and come clean with. So we feel like we really gave the story a good A to Z approach.
Okay. Actually, I think that takes us to a good point to give our listeners and viewers an early break. But we'll be right back with Emilie Dumay and Aurelien and Leturgie, the filmmakers behind Gunther's Millions. 4-part Netflix docuseries releasing on February 1st. You're listening to Factual America. Subscribe to our mailing list or follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter at Alamo Pictures to keep up to date with new releases or upcoming shows. Check out the show notes to learn more about the program, our guests, and the team behind the production. Now back to Factual America. Welcome back to Factual America. I'm here with Emilie Dumay and Aurelien and Leturgie, the filmmakers behind Gunther's Millions. They're the co-creators and executive producers, and Aurelien directed. It's a 4-part Netflix docuseries, and it released February 1st. Aurelien, we were just talking about Maurizio Mian and getting to know this guy, and you had these multiple rounds of interviews with them, and I think it's a bit cliche, but I think it is appropriate in this time. You're literally peeling back an onion as you're going through this. But why? The other question that comes across when or at least for me when I was watching this, is why does Maurizio and Carla, his business partner and ex-wife, why do they agree to even to be interviewed? I mean, I would strikes me there's potentially some legal implications here. I mean, what's this about?
Well, first of all, I want to say that Maurizio and Carla have been approached by, producers and people in the industry for quite a long time trying to tell a story. But I think the approach has always been the same, a very fluffy piece on Gunther and kind of like the obvious. And I believe that, when we flew there and we met with them and we sat down, we were very honest about our approach. And our approach was like, you have a crazy headline. You have all these things that point Gunther as the heir of this fortune, but we want to understand what that means, and we're going to ask you very, very specific questions, and we're going to be on for a ride with us. And I think that's our honesty is what got us there and got them to respect us as filmmakers. And then to answer your question more in depth, I believe that when you have a lot of money, there's one thing that sometimes people do have as well as an ego, and I think that Maurizio loves people to talk about him. He loves to be the center of, not the center of attention, but at least he loves the story of Gunther, his story to be told. So I think when he saw the opportunity and our angle was different, I think they were on board. And the last thing, yes, there are some touchy subjects. There's tax evasion, there's a lot of things, but there's also one thing that we mentioned in the series, is that there was something called the Tremonti law, which is an Italian tax, let's say an offshore, incentive for people that had offshore accounts to bring back money and kind of clear their names, and they've actually been part of that incentive. So they also feel that they've cleared their names and that they're in a good place now to tell that story.
Okay. And is it also get back to this point that I guess as we find out, as we learn more about Maurizio, is that there's also this addiction to celebrity, isn't there? Does he ever, he never wants to be out of the, he's an odd character in that he doesn't want to be out of the limelight. It's that he doesn't put himself necessarily forward. He always has these bands and these groups that he puts together to do that. But at the same time, he wants to, or as he always talks about his so-called boyhood friend, wants to, has this addiction for these sort of things and pop music and celebrity. Is that? I guess that's part of it too, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right on. He's Maurizio has had a fascination for pop culture, celebrities, and the world of communication. He's always tried to. He's had a very interesting relationship with the media. He's always tried to kind of manipulate the narrative and creating these bands, creating these experiments, creating these buying soccer teams in Madonna's house and creating big splashes in the media. We also have to remember that he has, the last 3 decades of Gunther's story were mainly before social media. And I feel like it would have been very different. His story would have been very different if social media had been around and he was able to create influencers through his groups. Because I think what he was trying to do is really what influencers are doing today, really pitching, his ideas and his findings through, these media attention. So, it's very interesting to see that what this is nowadays.
Well, you bring up a very good point, several very good points in that. So, as you say, this is a lot of this predates social media. But also one thing about that, because it predates social media, we don't have urban myths anymore, right? Because social media just explodes them immediately. Yet, they last for a few days or weeks, or maybe a little bit longer, as we're finding out with certain politicians in the U.S. But I think, it strikes me, as you said, and Aurelien was saying this earlier, you brought this honesty. I mean, you have ample of archival footage where typical local newscasters in the U.S. talking about the world's richest dog buying Madonna's house and now it's selling Madonna's house, or trying to buy Sly Stallone's house. But no one just, as you said, a lot of the approaches were about fluff pieces, basically. But no one has really delved into this like you have, and which it's interesting. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that did people want to buy into this myth that has surrounded Gunther and his millions?
Yeah, I mean, I think that people are very attracted to the beautiful story, the fairy tale story of a countess giving her money to her dog. I think there's something magical about this that is it's almost like you've seen these articles, you've seen things, we've read through things that were pointing at all the flaws of the story, but yet those were not the ones that stayed. The articles that stayed and the facts that stayed were over the years were the ones that the Countess had given her heritage to her German Shepherd dog. So yes, absolutely, there is an admiration for that story. People love good stories, and I think that no one really took the time to dig further, because it took us 2 years. It's a commitment. I mean, it's not just we had to really invest our time and energy into this, that not necessarily everyone could have done that. So it's just a long process.
Yeah. Well, and then also likewise, there's many great scenes, obviously, but there's this one scene where you're interviewing Fabrizio Corona, right? This influencer himself, right? And he says, "Is Maurizio paying for this?" So I put that question to you: Is Maurizio? I think I know the answer already, but it is a funny question and one worth answering.
It's funny. Well, first, Fabrizio Corona was one of the wildest interviewer of our careers. Yeah. He's an amazing character. But you know what? The question really stems from what Maurizio's done, throughout the years, and kind of Maurizio's always tried to capture the narrative and control the narrative, and so he's put together a lot of projects himself, trying to put himself out there. So. There's a lot of people who've come to him with ideas, and a lot of them expected Maurizio to, pitch in and work with them in creating these projects. We came in with a bit of a different angle, and that's why we included this line in the show, is because we came in and we told him, no, we're doing it on our own. We're telling your story, but you're not controlling this. We're telling your story, but we're asking the questions to every single person that's been part of the story, and they'll tell us what they want to tell us. But Fabrizio's line was right on, because this is something that Maurizio's done in the past when he's tried to control the narrative and really done his own projects, but those never really came to life.
And that line was definitely we had to explain ourselves with Netflix's BA. I mean, they asked us, did you get paid for this? I mean, this is, if that's the case, then we have a problem. And right. No, well, we never got paid for this. This is why actually it works so well.
Yeah.
And this is why we would include that kind of line in the show.
Well, I think it's emblematic of the craziness that is this story. I mean, we haven't. I'm assuming people are listening to this who are, it's on Netflix. I'm sure by the time they get this, it will be trending. It will be number one, or certainly going that direction. But let's just, as you said, the crazy. This tax evasion. I think maybe one thing you've possibly uncovered, and something we haven't even talked about, is the whole sex cult nature of this kind of thing. Obviously, there's the real estate empire, buying up soccer teams and putting porn stars in place as presidents, and then these social experiments, which were probably, I think we all all filmmakers want to say there's never before seen scenes and stuff like that. But what is one element of this story that you weren't? I think you have alluded to it already. That document that you got about the 13 commandments and things like that. Was that an element of the story that you were not aware of or fully aware of going in, and that's kind of one of the big things to drop out of this?
Yeah, I think that the 13 commandments and that document we had received was a good indicator that there was something even crazier than what was already there. I think that what we maybe didn't know right away is that the 13 commandments and this lifestyle and this, we call it a sex cult. It's also a cult of perfection. But the concept, the true concept of putting these people in this house and having Gunther pay for their lifestyle and so on was really based on something a lot more legit in some capacity. It was based on the Maslow scale, or they had their own version of the Maslow scale of what happens if you give people everything they need, and can you create happiness? Can you create the perfect happy person? And that was kind of like, we didn't know that at first, and that's also one of the things is Maurizio has this genius about him, is that he's definitely using his skills as a professor and as someone that also is a scientist, a mad scientist. But there was something a lot deeper than just a sex cult and beautiful people, or early on influencers living in the house. There was actually a real research behind it. And Matteo Pacini, who's a scientist in the series, is actually real. He's not a fake scientist. He's a real scientist. There was something real behind it. We didn't know that when we got started.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things I was going to ask you. Is this? I mean, I didn't doubt that the doctor was, or he was a scientist, or he was real. But are these experiments really real? They almost feel like a ruse for something else. But I mean, is he going to try to publish something in scientific journals?
I mean, they've been doing a lot of research on this happiness. The happiness research has been something that's been ongoing. They've done they've worked with different universities, different professors. Matteo Pacini has been a big part of it, and he's a psychotherapist in Italy. So there's it's interesting because this research was really the reason for all of this, like there's not the reason for all of it, but for a lot of it. And it comes back to Maurizio's own personal journey with mental health and finding happiness. So I think he's doing it to try to help himself but other people. But it's just the scientific journey was a real one that he's very, very passionate about, and he really cares about. And it really didn't strike us at first. We realized that as we were having those discussions with him and uncovering all these pieces of the story.
I mean, it's even talking of creating almost, I mean, he doesn't use the terms, but almost like a super race of happy people of some sort, it's, but I mean, you talk about this, it's in the episode 4, certainly, or it's even before that. But, I mean, I don't think we're giving too much away. Do you think he's found happiness, in your experience, in having spent two parts of 2 years with him?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, and I think that's also a big question in our series. And to be honest with you, I think that if you ask Maurizio, Emilie and I have had that conversation with him off cameras many times, as well. I think that Maurizio will tell you that, it comes and goes. I mean, it just, sometimes he's happy, sometimes he's not. He's going through waves. It's a roller coaster. I think it's just, he's learned how to live with this. So I don't think he's found true happiness. And I think that, that there are moments of his life where he's truly happy and others where he's down. It's just the way, the way he is, and he understands that, and that's already a big achievement, understanding his own, mental.
And then for you as filmmakers, have you learned anything about the pursuit of happiness in doing this project? I'll put that to you first, Emilie.
That's a tough question.
Or we can let Aurelien
I mean,
go first.
we definitely learned a lot through the process, and especially through our many conversations with Maurizio. It just, it really opened our mind to kind of, the perception of society, of what makes people happy, and what, definitely his views on marriage, his views on relationships, his views on a lot of things are just things that, are worth exploring. And maybe his eccentric ways are a little bit different in the way he tries to portray and tell those very interesting concepts. But we've learned a lot through this process, even us as partners, and as through trying to do this together. And we've had our ups and downs, and it's been a journey for sure, definitely. And just kind of even just the idea of like creating a relationship with someone who's also, who you have to confront on certain lies and things, but just, it's also an interesting, it was really an interesting relationship that we had with Maurizio that made us question a lot about ourselves and our, journey as filmmakers. Aurelien, I will let you answer yours.
No, I agree with you, and also, I mean, I think that you would, when you watch the series and you learn that the money is comes from Mauricio's family, then you realize that he has the money. You would think, how can you be, how can you be depressed, or how can you suffer mental health with that kind of money and being able to do whatever you want. And I think that is a good lesson. I think a good life lesson is that, and might sound a bit, random and expected, but, most of the times, things are not always as they appear they are, and you can't really judge a book by its cover. And that's really also what we've learned there through this wild ride, is that Mauricio, despite the amount of money he has, he's going through the same things, and it's relatable. And money does not make you necessarily happy. It just provides you a little bit of comfort to create things, and that's what he does best.
So to take this all the way back to Gunther, who or what is Gunther really? He's more than a dog, isn't it? I mean, it could be just the dog's name, but it seems, I think you make reference to it being as a sort of, it's a philosophy, it's a way of life in pursuit of happiness. That's what is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I mean, I want to say that Gunther is Gunther is the first beneficiary of the trust. I mean, that is written on paper. It is the legality. But yeah, in the series we explore it. Gunther is real. Gunther lives with Carla. There is a Gunther the Sixth. So there is a Gunther physically that exists. But yes, there's also Gunther's also an iconic. Gunther is also a philosophy. Gunther is also a fantasy. There's a lot of other things, and I think Lee says it very well in the series. It's is it real? Is it fantasy? Does that even matter? At that point,
right.
And it kind of like resumes it very well. It's a beautiful story. There's twists and turns, and at the end, it's it doesn't even matter. We just got a very wild ride, and it's very enjoyable.
Well, I will second that. It's a wild ride, and people should. You will enjoy it if you haven't had a chance to watch it yet. Let me ask you. I mean, back to you, Aurelien. Is this your first director? It was first time as a director.
I come from the world of development, so I've actually directed a lot of pilots, and I would create. I'm more of a creator, so I would create. I would develop. I would usually direct, pilots and sizzles and proof of concept. So I'm very much. It's my first time directing a documentary series. I think that I also come from a background of directing music videos early on in my career. So I've directed, and I think this approach also, Emilie was definitely a great. Also person to have with, and we've both directed this as well, because it's been a very creative journey for both of us. But yeah, it's my first documentary series as a director. Yeah.
And Mo, so maybe next time, Emilie, will you be the director on the next project?
Maybe on paper, but we're a team, so we definitely work, bounce off each other, and we're very complementary in our work. So it definitely helps to have a partner that matches with you.
Well, that certainly comes through, and so yes, thank you to both of you for making this. I mean, maybe we're actually kind of coming to the end of our time together. It's hard to believe, but what are you? I mean, what's next for you? I mean, I know you're just still. This is only just launching now. Releasing. You want to bask in the glow that is Gunther's Millions. But can you say anything about any future projects that you have in the works?
Well, development is always a bit secretive, so we can't really reveal any of our future projects. What we can say is that our production company is called Nobo Productions, NOBO, and it stands for No Borders and No Boundaries, and that's really what we're looking after. We're looking after these stories that are international, that are wacky, crazy, amazing, inspiring, but really take place and have an international footprint, because we really want to reach and entertain a global audience. And I think with Netflix, we found the right platform for this, being in 195 countries. And we want to pursue that. Those are the stories that really intrigue us and that we want to pursue.
And how do you find those stories? What's the,
That's an Aurelien question. The development.
There's an interesting method to this. I don't know if I want to reveal all my tricks, but there's the reverse thinking, which is think of something really wild and see if this is actually factual. So there's that, right. But there's a lot of reading, and there's a lot of researching. You have to be very, very. You can't just follow just mainstream media, because usually when it's in the mainstream media, it's already out there. So you have to go after more local stories
But I think it's also just coming across something really interesting and having the mindset of understanding what makes a good show, what would translate well into a story that we can you could dig into and make a series or a documentary out of. And sometimes you dig and there's nothing there. Sometimes you dig and you realize there's a lot more there. So that was that was what happened with Gunther's Millions. And there's a few things that that you work towards and you're like, this would be a great story, and it's not, or there's not enough meat on the bones. So it's really having those skills to understand that and really coming across something, but also realizing what makes it into a great show.
Well, you certainly succeeded in Gunther's Millions. So so thank you so much. I just wanted to really, it's been a pleasure talking with both of you, and to remind our listeners and viewers, we've been talking with Emilie Dumay and Aurelien Leturgie, the filmmakers behind Gunther's Millions. 4-part Netflix docuseries drops on February 1st. So both of you, thank you so much. Congratulations again. And when you do have one of those next great international story ideas, we'd love to have you back on. And yes, look forward to it. So yes, thank you again, and take care.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Thank you so much. I also would like to thank those who helped make this podcast possible. A big shout out to Sam and Joe at Intersound Audio in York, England. A big thanks to Amy Ord, our podcast manager at Alamo Pictures, who ensures we continue getting great guests onto the show and that everything otherwise runs smoothly. Finally, a big thanks to our listeners. Many of you have been with us for 4 incredible seasons. Please keep sending us feedback and episode ideas, whether it is on YouTube, social media, or directly by email. Please also remember to like us and share us with your friends and family, wherever you happen to listen or watch podcasts. This is Factual America, signing off.
You've been listening to Factual America. This podcast is produced by Alamo Pictures, specializing in documentaries, television, and shorts about the USA for international audiences. Head on down to the show notes for more information about today's episode, our guests, and the team behind the podcast. Subscribe to our mailing list or follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Alamo Pictures. Be the first to hear about new productions, festivals showing our films, and to connect with our team. Our homepage is alamopictures.co.uk.